everyone. Welcome to another GGFA-hosted webinar today. This is Deborah Collins with the Gold's Gym Franchisee Association, and we are very excited to have Karen Woodard with us today to present on creating a culture of welcome. Karen has presented for the GGFA and its members for many years, and we really appreciate her sharing her expertise today once again. This webinar is made possible through Matrix Fitness. Matrix is working with Karen, and you'll see a series of webinars that that she has presented already this year, and more to come. So again, we thank Matrix Fitness for being the premier sponsor of today's presentation. Additional sponsors today are Aspen Marketing, Twin Oaks Software, and ReadyCare Industries. All of these companies are proud members of the Supplier Partnership Network. So for all of our franchisees, we hope that you do look to the members of our SPN when you need products and services for your business. At this time, before we get started, I would like to draw your attention to the GGFA website for just a moment. Many of you are on our email list, and if you're not, you can certainly come right here to the website. But if you are, then you have no doubt seen through the GGFA app, through the briefs that we publish every week, and the Voice magazine, that we are promoting the annual Owners Conference. I can't say enough about what an outstanding event this will be this year. Every year we're excited to be in preparation for this event, but this year in particular, we will have Cynthia Montgomery, who is an author of The Strategist and a well-known book, and she is a Harvard business professor. She's going to give an amazing presentation and really guide our owners through developing strategy for your business. We will also be discussing the Gold's Gym brand and being in the middle. So this is really a great year, if you haven't already, to register for the Owners Conference and plan to be there. The website has links, and anything that you receive from the GGFA also has links to the registration. So at this time, we do have several sponsors with us, and they each have a message. So I would like to invite Ryan Popek with Aspen Marketing, who's with us today, to share a message on behalf of Aspen Marketing. Ryan?
Thank you very much. I'll keep this brief. Some of you may know Aspen Marketing is a merger between Get Members and Advocor. One of the things we are doing, we're already utilizing the vast amount of resources that Aspen Marketing already had in place, but we want to keep being a great partner for all of you. One of the things that we are doing now is leveraging the power of the group buy. As you can see here on the screen, we have already passed the July deadline, but there is still time for August and September to pass along great savings to you all. It's a savings of about 4.5 to 5.5 cents per piece on all your direct mail marketing, and this already includes the popular holiday cards that we offer in December. The only things that you have to do on these direct mail pieces is utilize the already great Gold's Gym creative that is already in place, and just market 5,000 to 10,000 pieces per month. That's basically the only thing I really want to get across today. If you have any questions or all, please contact your local Aspen Marketing rep, and then one of us will follow up for you very briefly. Thank you.
Okay, Ryan, thank you so much. And for everyone attending, and for those of you that may listen to this recording in the future, all of our sponsors we will be sending their marketing pieces and their contact information out to everyone that's registered today following the webinar. At this time, I'd like to invite another great partner of the GGFA, Twin Oaks Software. We have Rick Hersham with us. Rick?
Hi, everyone. First, I wanted to thank Deb and GGFA and all the members for giving us the opportunity to be here today. I worked in the club for 20 years before I came to Twin Oaks. I've heard Karen speak many times before, and I learned something new every time I hear her speak, so you guys are in for a treat today. 3 reasons why you should consider Twin Oaks. One, we have 2 great products. One is a hybrid of server and web-based software with online capabilities. And we also have a brand new 100% cloud-based software we're very excited about. Second, we are the fastest growing software company in the industry, and we have the highest retention rate. And third, you'll save money by switching, and the training and support that you'll receive is far superior from anyone else out there. I look forward to seeing everyone at the Owners Conference, but feel free to contact me at any time before that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, and also Justin Willis with ReadyCare Industries is with us, and ReadyCare has attended our events multiple years in the past as well. And Justin, we always look forward to your great samples, whether it's a Gold's Gym convention or the Owners Conference. So, Justin?
Well, Deborah, we very much love taking all of our samples across country whenever we're with the GGFA. Just to be able to hand them out, it's a lot of fun for us, myself and Andy Robbins, who also works very closely with the GGFA. We have really just seen such great growth that it's an amazing thing. ReadyCare Industries, for those of you who may not know exactly what we do and who we are, over the last years since our inception, we have been known in the industry as a provider of the silkscreen dispenser products that many of the Gold's Gyms use throughout the country. The dispensers go up, of course, into the shower and locker room areas, as well as the vanity areas, displaying the Gold's Gym logo. What makes us stand out from the rest of the industry is that we put a lot of quality assurance into each of our products, putting like an epoxy cover over our silk screens, in addition to offering some of the best liquids out there at some of the most competitive pricing. Primarily, Gold's Gym across the country has used us for the dispensers, the bulk products like showers, shampoos, lotions, razors, as well as the equipment cleaning wipes. And as a part of this, we have continued to better our dealings with you guys, as well as offering free freight discounts as long as you're meeting certain criteria across the country. It's an amazing thing that we've tried to better each year. And really, we just look forward to the continued growth of Gold's Gym, as well as the GGFA and ReadyCare as well. We thank you for allowing us to be a part of this.
Great. Thank you, Justin. Well, at this time, I'm going to take a moment and pass the screen over to Karen Woodard, our presenter. And while I'm doing that, I'll allow Karen a moment to get set up. I'd like to go over the logistics for everyone. If you are here in the webinar and you have a telephone connection, that's fabulous, because if you would like to have some open dialogue with Karen during Q&A, we'd be happy to unmute your line. So you'll be prompted at that time. For a microphone connection, we can unmute as well, but you may want to select typing a question into your dialog box when Karen is ready for questions. Also, Karen has placed some poll questions in today's program. So for franchisees and their staff, please respond to those questions that you'll see on the screen when prompted. So Karen, if you don't mind, I want to just take a quick moment and let folks know a little bit about you if they haven't listened in on one of these great webinars already. Karen is president of Premium Performance Training, which is based in Boulder, Colorado. And she's actually an international author, speaker, consultant, and is devoted to successful sales, operations management, and hospitality training in the health and wellness industry. She's owned 11 businesses over the past 28 years. She's sold 9 of them and currently operates 2 businesses. 6 of the 11 entities were clubs, starting in 1985 with 3 fitness centers, 2 indoor rock climbing facilities, and a body-mind center. So she has a wealth of experience. She attributes her success, as well as others' success, to the simple practice of training staff well on sales, management, and hospitality, what she refers to as the indispensable 3. She currently works with clients throughout the world to train and consult on maximizing these indispensable 3. And her personal philosophy is always to be informative, inspirational, and persuasive. And Karen, you certainly are all of those things. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much, Deborah. A big thank you to Gold's, and a big thank you to all of our sponsors, Matrix and Aspen and ReadyCare and Twin Oaks. Thank you. And Rick, thank you for those kind words. That was so nice of you. But you're right, we have gone back. We go back a long ways, don't we, Rick? We've known each other for a while. So let's see, today, what we're going to talk about, and actually before we jump into our presentation, Deborah, let's just make sure we have no technical issues. I'm going to change the screen to the title, which is Creating a Culture of Welcome. Is that visible on the screen?
Yes, it is, and the audio
Perfect.
sounds great.
Okay, excellent. Good, good, good. So for all of you that are here from the East Coast and the Midwest, good afternoon. And for those of you who are here from the Mountain region and the Pacific, good morning to you. And for any of you who are in the room from Canada, I'll look forward to seeing you this week because I'll be speaking at the CanFit Pro Conference. So today what we're going to talk about is creating a culture of welcome. And if any of you were in the webinar that we did in June, which is called It's Not Our Fault, but It's Still Our Problem, there are going to be some things that will sound familiar. But before we talk about that, Deborah, let's do a poll and find out who all in the meeting room did attend that session. It's not our fault, but it's still our problem.
Okay,
so if we
great.
can take a second to answer that.
Okay, great. Karen has placed the screen, the question on the screen, and so everyone, if you'll just please respond. It's kind of like being on a Jeopardy game.
Exactly.
Give everyone a few more seconds. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Close the poll and share the results.
All righty.
12% said they were, but most of your attendees did not attend that previous presentation, Karen. So this will be fresh for them.
All righty. So for those of you who did attend the program, it's not our fault, but it's still our problem. We're going to talk about some of those behaviors. In this session, we spoke a lot about behaviors that we could train our staff on to really create a level of excellence with service. Today, what we're going to talk about is more creating the culture that supports those behaviors. So we're going to really talk about some foundational things that have to be in place in behaviors to surface consistently and in order for them to really be authentic. So again, creating a culture today is really going to be a little bit more about ingraining those behaviors that become the culture. So let's go ahead and move on. First of all, what I'd like to do is define culture. You could certainly define it a lot of ways, but what I find is a good exercise in any organization is to create definitions as an organization and not leave it up to the individuals of staff. So if we think about culture, really the most general term would be the predominating attitudes and behaviors that characterize the functioning of a group or an organization. You could certainly think of culture as the arts or music, or you could think of it as food or something ethnic-based. We're not thinking about that at all. We're really just talking about what your organization is unmistakably known for, whether good or bad. And hopefully it's good. But that's why we're doing trainings like today and the trainings that we did in June. It's not our fault, but it's still our problem, because we want to create that consistency in the really good behaviors and the culture that supports it among the entire staff. So I'd really like for you to think about, all right, do we have a culture in our organization? And are there attitudes and behaviors that characterize us as a group and how we function? If there's not, now is a very good time to really start working on that. Okay, I want to give some examples. Most of us in this room know Lululemon. Some of us wear Lululemon. For those of you who may not be familiar with Lululemon, Lululemon is a retail organization. They've created a great culture, and they're known for their yoga wear, and they're known for their expertise in the people who sell their yoga wear, and they're known for kind of creating a cult perspective in terms of people who buy their yoga wear. Well, if you recall, earlier this year, there was a problem with some of the fabric that Lululemon had purchased to make some of their yoga pants. Fabric was a little too sheer. And so what happened is people would buy the yoga pants, they would go take class, they'd be doing their downward dog, and their little heinies were kind of showing through their yoga pants because the fabric was too sheer. And of course, nobody wants to be in that situation, so people were returning the pants. Now, in a culture that is as strong as Lululemon's, you would think that there would be a very common response, absolute consistency, but there wasn't, and that's what made the news. So if you were watching CNN a lot in the last few months, you saw some pretty destructive coverage for Lululemon, because what they did, and this is just such a perfect example of not ingraining the culture deep enough. Even though you think an organization really has, there are still cracks in the foundation, so to speak. That what happened is when people went to return their pants to Lululemon, some of the sales associates actually made them put the pants on and bend over so that the sales associates could see whether or not they were sheer or not. Is that hideous or what? Of course it is. My God, that is such terrible service. Now, Lululemon representatives, of course, went on CNN and said, that is so not us. We are terribly embarrassed that any of our associates did this, that put people in these positions, literally and figuratively. This again goes against our policy of treating people well and with dignity. So, reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of organizations that appear to really have it together still have those cracks and foundations, and that's what today is about. Is let's make sure that we're taking care of those cracks so that you don't have those difficult, embarrassing, awkward service moments within your organization. And what you see in front of you is you see a listing, and I'm going to give you the 9 worst service companies in the U.S. and outside of the U.S. Now, this was a service poll that was done by the American Customer Service Institute, and they were rated by consumers. Top score is 100, obviously. Worst score would be 0, but these were some of the worst. And these are very well-known companies. Obviously, Walgreens, a lot of us have Walgreens in our communities. Their customer satisfaction is only 76 out of 100. TJX, which is TJ Maxx, Home Goods, the retail store, 76. The Gap, 76. Super Value Supermarkets, 76. Fifth on the list is Sears. They had a lower satisfaction score of 75. CVS, another drugstore, 75. Safeway Supermarkets, 75. Netflix was 75. And the top one, what do you think the top one was? The top one was Walmart. They had a customer satisfaction score of 71. Now, these are all very recognizable names. And I'm sure some of us have gone into these stores before, and we've had great to okay to negative service experiences. And so if your company were to be polled by the American Customer Service Institute, you want to make sure that your score was in the high 80s, the 90s, 100. So let's talk about some of the things that we can do, because these businesses as well, these 9 businesses that we've just gone over, they had the same problem with Lululemon. They're successful businesses, but they have cracks in their foundation. Okay, so I want to move on to a way that we can fix that. And some of you may have read Bobby Knight's latest book called Power of Negative Thinking. And you might be thinking, why would I read a book called The Power of Negative Thinking? Well, it's actually, it makes a lot of sense. It's about really taking a look at your organization and taking a look at the areas that have to be fixed. So it makes a lot of sense. You know, sometimes what we do is we just look at our strengths, which is great. We need to look at our strengths, but we also really need to take a look at those things that are just like staring us in the face that need to change because they're problems in our organization, whether they are people, whether they are hiring practices, whether they are the way we train people, whatever it be, we need to take a look at what those negative things are. And as Bobby says in his book so plainly, you lose games because of mistakes. You have to eliminate the mistakes. So let's talk about a couple ways we can do that. On the screen in front of you, the next 2 screens, you have what I refer to as a member service self-test. Now, don't worry about answering these questions now. If you'd like to do, but we're not going to do a poll on this. So there are basically 15 questions here. And you would want to answer this. If you're a manager or an owner, you're certainly going to want to answer this. You also are going to want to give this to your entire staff and have them answer this very objectively and anonymously. So what you want to do is get together in a group, and you want to be able to read the questions to them and See if there are any questions about the questions, because we want this to be not left up to interpretation of, oh, do they mean this by this question or do they mean this? You want to be able to answer those questions for them so that they can rate you or rate the organization. And that's what we're doing here. We are rating the organization. So we are rating it 1 through 5. 1 meaning we never do this. 5 meaning we do it every day, every way, all the time, consistently. So you would go through all the questions. Our company is totally committed to creating delighted members. If you're going to give yourself a 5 there can be no exception. There cannot be one person on your staff that is just kind of mediocre and tired and just shows up. We use technology to assist our members in the decision-making process. Serving members' needs takes precedence over our internal needs. What that means is that if 2 staff people are working together on the fitness floor or at the desk or wherever they might be and in a conversation, and a member comes up and needs help, they immediately stop the conversation and they help that member as opposed to continuing to carry on the conversation. Each person in our company introduces themselves to at least 5 members they do not know weekly. There can be no exceptions on this if you're going to give yourself a 5. We deliver what we promise to our members. This is the interesting thing is does every staff member know what our promise is? Because if they don't, we certainly can't give ourselves a 5 on that one. We actively seek member feedback. What I mean by we actively seek member feedback, and this question will come up a lot if you do this survey with your staff, if they think, well, we have a complaint box that's actively seeking member feedback. No, it's not. Actively seeking member feedback is going out and really asking members, what do you like about us? What bugs you about us? What do we need to fix? What do we need to change? And being willing to take it. Being willing to listen to what they have to say without defense and without arguing, but just simply taking the feedback and writing it down and then doing something with it. Number 7, we eliminate procedures that do not add value for our members. What that means is that we consistently go back through our policies and we say, is this necessary? Do we still need to do this? And if not, then we get rid of it. Okay, question 8 would be, we clearly understand what our members expect from us. And if you clearly understand what your members expect from you, that's because you're going out and asking. You're getting that feedback very proactively. You're surveying your members, whatever it is that you do regularly. We consistently show our members that we care about their business. Our employees are experts in the products and services we sell. And I'm not talking about just trainers that have certifications, but absolutely every staff person is an expert in their area of employment and what they sell in their particular department. We treat our employees with dignity and respect. This will be an interesting one to get feedback on. We communicate frequently with our members. We study our competitors for ideas on how we can do things better. We reward member loyalty, and we add lagniappe to every member's experience. Now, the question will come up, what is lagniappe? Or no, what your staff will say is, what is yappy? It's actually a French word pronounced lagniappe. It's a Creole word, and it means a little something extra. We all know what the baker's dozen is, 13 donuts for the price of 12. Well, that's lagniappe. You give something that's unexpected every day that members just think, wow, I love those guys at Gold. They just always surprise me. They exceed my expectations. Okay, so this is where we start. This is where we start finding out where some of our mistakes are that we can eliminate so that we can really start to create a culture of welcome where people feel, where our members feel like they want to be every day, and it's one of the most extraordinary parts of their day. Alrighty, so here's what I'd like you to do. We're going to take another poll. And with these questions, I'd like you to simply answer yes or no. There's no maybe. There's yes or no. That's it. So I'd like you to take a couple seconds and answer. All of our employees perform each aspect of their job with a high degree of excellence and consistency. Yes or no? Results are predictable because training and skills are consistent. In other words, we always have the same training program for every person in each department. It doesn't vary. And they get the same information that every other staff person has in the same delivery, in the same spirit. Yes or no? Each supervisor would give a similar answer for each question or problem they are presented with. Yes or no? each employee would give a similar answer for each question or problem they are presented with. So that one means that if you were to ask a person in child care, one of your staff in child care, present them with a problem with a member, that they would answer it in the same way that a manager would. Number 5, member treatment is consistent no matter who the member deals with. Yes or no? And number 6, all staff members know and do what is considered excellent performance and attitude. Yes or no? Okay. So, in our quest to correct mistakes, if you answered no to any of those questions, that tells me that you might not be serious enough about your training programs or following through on your training programs for your staff. And it's critical. These are really basic concepts that would show that you have consistency and you are eliminating mistakes. But if you answered no to any of these questions, this tells you we have some mistakes in our training. We have some areas, some cracks that we need to take care of. You know, the reality is that more than likely you have training materials, you have defined processes and plans that you expect all of your staff will deliver for very consistent operations. You've trained everyone on those processes and procedures consistently. But the reality is that it doesn't always get followed through on. And so we're going to talk about a tool a little bit later in our program today that's kind of a weekly quiz every week of every month of the year. And I know some of you might be rolling your eyes and thinking, is that like uber repetition or what? Yeah, it is. And that's the point, because you want to create consistency. And the reason you want to do this is because I speak to so many clients who just literally want to pull their hair out when they recognize that their staff are unaware or not using the tools that have been provided to them for ongoing development to create consistency and how we really create a culture of welcome in your organization. So we'll talk about that a little further on in the program in terms of how to actually do that testing so you can create consistency. Because when you create consistency in how things are handled, that creates trust with members and with staff. And that creates that culture of people feeling like they want to be there because they know that they're going to be treated fairly. Okay, if we don't take care of it, then what ends up happening is you just get this domino effect. If you don't really take care of some of the mistakes in your organization, the cracks in the organization, it just becomes a domino effect that will definitely start to tumble. All right. Talk about our staff, because we talked about, sometimes the mistakes exist in our training program. Sometimes the mistakes exist with our staff people. And so in 2011, Gallup did a poll, and we all know who Gallup is. They do surveys and polls of different statistics in the U.S. This one was on the American workplace and the level of employee engagement. And I thought that this was actually very disturbing, because what this poll revealed was that only 30% of American workers are engaged or inspired by their work. Only 30%, which means 70% of workers are disengaged and they're not inspired by their work. So if your staff is not inspired, they're not engaged, they're not going to create a culture of welcome. So you really have to take a look. Is your staff inspiring? Every one of your staff. You really need to just take that close, objective look and ask yourself the question, are they inspiring or are they tiring, quite frankly? It's just that simple. And the inspiring ones, you say, okay, good, we're safe there. The tiring ones, you need to have a conversation with them. And we need to upskill them or make sure that they get to that point of inspiration. And if they don't, they can't be with you because they will not create that culture of welcome. So we want all of our staff to give 100% at work. But what that means is every day. It's not 18% on Monday, 22% on Tuesday, 25% on Wednesday, and so on and so forth. So by the end of the week, it's 100%. It's every day. And that's what inspired staff do. Inspired staff will give you 100% every day. Tired staff, they might give you 22% on Tuesday, 23% on Thursday. So to the end of the week, you might get 100%. But we want everyone to be inspired. So I'd like you to really take a very strong objective look at all your staff. Are they inspiring or are they tiring? So here are some of the things that you might want to consider when you're hiring new staff to understand whether or not they will be inspiring and whether or not they will be able to assist you in your teamwork to make the dream work of creating the culture of welcome. So when you're hiring staff, first of all, they need to have a sense of maturity. And, you know, that might be a toughie for some of us because I know some of us hire very young people. And I'm not saying all young people are immature. Please do not say that I'm just creating a broad stroke. But there seems to be kind of a commonality there. So hire young people, but make sure they have a sense of maturity. And maturity means that they can handle any situation and not feel uncomfortable, not feel awkward, or make anyone else feel awkward. You want to make sure that your staff can initiate conversations with strangers. So when you're doing your interviewing, you want to see how well they engage you. You know, I do a lot of interviewing with my clients' potential staff. So for example, if somebody's hiring a manager or hiring a salesperson or hiring really anybody that is in kind of a performance-oriented position, then they will do the initial interview, and then I'll do some follow-up phone interviews with them. And one of the things that I look for is, does that person ask me questions? Are they curious? Do they try to build a relationship with me? Or do they just answer the questions that I ask? Because if that's all they do, they're not going to get hired in the organization. So same thing with you, quite frankly. You want to make sure that when you're hiring staff, they have the ability to initiate conversation with strangers. So in an interview, don't take the role, quite frankly, of you being the leader. Let them do the leading and see where they can take that conversation. All right. You also want to make sure that you're hiring people that don't interrupt or finish people's sentences, because those people are just terribly annoying. And that does not create a culture of welcome. That creates a culture of frustration and feeling like people are not listened to. You want to hire staff that have an outward focus rather than an inward focus. That means that your staff people they're curious about finding out about members and how the member's day was, or what they do for their work, or how things are coming with their program, as opposed to talking about me, what I did for the weekend, what's going on in my life, and what's going on with me in school and my life, and you know what I mean. You also want to look for whether or not somebody can maintain warm eye contact, because warm eye contact is an invitation for conversation. And if they can't, then they probably are not going to be able to initiate conversation with other people or have an outward focus. They need to be articulate. They need to have strong listening skills, as well as an attitude of, absolutely, I would love to do that for you. They need to definitely have a desire to be in service to others and not look at what they do in your facility as, you know, this is just kind of my college job. It's, no, I'm doing this because I love taking care of people. I love teaching a class. I love getting people healthier. I love greeting people and making them feel like we're the best part of their day. And then the last part is that they don't personalize issues. And what I mean by personalized issues is, no doubt, we have some crabby members. We have some members that they just get ticked off easily, and they take it out on your staff. And some are unreasonable, and some are just crabby. And so your staff can't personalize that. They just have to recognize that it's not about them as a staff person. It's the other person. It's just whatever's going on in their day. And they just have to let it roll off their back like a duck lets water roll off its back. All right, those are some of the qualities I would encourage you to look for when you are trying to create an organization that creates a culture of welcome. So then you want to take a look at where some of those cracks might be in your foundation. We've talked about, all right, staff. Let's talk about training. So in terms of training, what you want to do is utilize what's referred to as the foolproof 4 method. And the foolproof 4 method suggests that you have pre-training, you have a staff launch, you have your department-specific training, and then, of course, you do your courtesy, your communication, and your social skills training, which the program that we did in June called It's Not Our Fault, but It's Still Our Problem, that would be perfect for courtesy, communication, and social skills training, at least as part of it, not in its entirety, but part of it. But let's talk about the pre-training. So this would be a format that you would utilize for absolutely every person. Remember, we want to create consistency. We want every staff person to be able to answer things in the same way, not like robots, but have the same information so they can answer questions and take care of problems in the same way. So the pre-training would be for absolutely every staff person. When we offer for them to come aboard with us, we give them an assignment. That means they go through all of our schedules. They go through our entire website. They go through our total organizational hierarchy. They go through our staff handbook. They go through all of the paperwork. Everything about our organization is a history, everything that they would need to know so that when they come on site to do their staff launch or their department-specific training, they already have a head start. And by the way, there would be a test. So if you hire someone as a front desk person or as a child care attendant or as a trainer or a Group X instructor, membership sales makes no difference what it is. They'd all go through pre-training, and that is self-paced. And you would let them know that they have X days to get that done, and then you will do a test with them when they come on-site to do their on-site training. Now, interestingly enough, I was having a conversation with a gal. Remember I mentioned to you a moment ago, I do a lot of phone interviews when my clients are hiring staff. Well, she was being interviewed to be a member advocate, which is a membership sales position for a hospital-based client of mine, and she came from the pharmaceuticals industry. And in the pharmaceuticals industry, when you are hired, you have got to do a lot of homeschooling, so to speak, on the drugs that they sell. And you have to have that down. You have to know all the drugs that you will be selling before you actually come to their sales training, so you know what you're selling. Makes total sense, doesn't it? Well, their training is much more intense than what we typically do in our industry, but this pre-training would be similar to that. The staff launch. The staff launch would be product knowledge training, and absolutely every staff person would go through it. Again, it's self-paced. And staff launch, an example of that would be that every new staff person meets with absolutely every department head to understand the essence of what that department contributes to the overall member experience. And they have to understand 5 things about that department that contribute to the member experience. And they're going to be tested on that. They would, during the staff launch, they would take X number of classes that you define, not by their choice, but that you define, that perhaps are signature classes for you that we want them to be talking about. They would have a personal training session. They would have an intro session. If you have a cafe, they would have a meal or a shake or something like that in the cafe. They would experience everything that you have, every department you have, every service you have in the club. We're creating consistency here. We're creating buy-in. We're creating a staff person feeling like they're part of something bigger so that they can have a member feel like they are part of something bigger. Then, of course, you would do the department-specific training, and that is going to last anywhere from 3 days to 3 weeks, depending on what the department is. I've given you some points on the screen here that might be for a membership salesperson, some of the department-specific training they would go over. That would last a week. There would be a lot of role play. So it can vary for each department. That's the only component that varies in the Foolproof 4. And then the final chapter of the Foolproof 4 would be courtesy, communication, and social skills. Absolutely every staff person would go through that as well. So take a look at your staff training programs and understand whether or not they have the depth enough to create consistency and minimize those foundational cracks, so to speak, or you need to maybe shore up some of your training. All righty, let's go ahead and move on. So, for some reason, my laptop is locked up. Here we go. So, we talked about this before when we did the session called "It's Not Our Fault, but It's Still Our Problem." And what we have to have every staff person know is that they have a secondary purpose and a primary purpose with us. Their secondary purpose is really more the task of their job. So their secondary purpose would be, if I'm a salesperson, to contribute and generate revenue to the club, building a practice, or excuse me, if I'm a personal trainer, it would be to contribute and generate revenue to the club, building a practice with clients that provide safe, effective, results-based exercise programs. That would be my secondary purpose as a personal trainer. That's going to vary for every department. The primary purpose, however, will not vary. That will be the same for absolutely for every person, and that will be defined by your organization. My primary purpose here that I would offer you a session that I used when I had my clubs is that every staff person's primary purpose is to create relationships with members that they know and they don't yet know, as well as with clients, that will add value to their membership, enhance their sense of belonging and sense of community with them. That would be absolutely every staff person's primary purpose. And the reason that this is important to define is because when you bring someone aboard, or if you were to go back and survey all of your staff right now and you were to say to them, what is your primary purpose? Dollars to donuts, they would answer with what their secondary purpose is. So if they're just thinking about their secondary purpose, you're losing opportunities to create a culture of welcome. Because then what happens is you get staff who are just kind of tunnel vision focused on one thing. But if we're trying to create a culture of welcome where everybody feels like this is the best part of their day, they really want to be a part of our organization, I'm talking about members and staff, then every staff person has to realize that they have a primary purpose and they have a secondary purpose. Because if they don't realize they have a primary purpose, they're not going to act on it. They're not going to focus on creating relationships with members that they do and do not yet know. They're not going to do those extra miles. What they're going to do is just focus on the task of what they believe they've been hired for. So this is also critical in your training, to make it very clear that there is a primary purpose and a secondary purpose for absolutely every staff person. Okay, so foundational things. Again, when it comes to service, we all think we know what good service is, but if you were to ask every one of your staff people to define service, and you have 100 staff people, you'd get probably 100 different definitions. So literally, this screen is, if you were to Google service, this is what it would say. These all are definitions of service, but they're different definitions of service. So in your training, you need to define what service is. So all of your staff can be moving together and acting in the same consistent way to deliver the same consistent thing. Otherwise, they'll be delivering their version or interpretation of what they think service would be. That doesn't create consistency. That creates fragmentation. So perhaps a definition that you can certainly borrow if you'd like to is that we want every staff person to create a more attentive, inclusive environment that consistently becomes an extraordinary part of our members and our day as staff person. We want to make a difference for all members, not just the ones we know well. And we want every staff person to take what they know and turn it into what they do consistently. So that could be a definition of service. Another definition of service could be we want every staff person to create clear and distinguishable kindnesses and warmth. We want them to exude that when they're welcoming guests, welcoming members, welcoming strangers, that is completed by consistently exceeding their expectations. So it's up to you as a manager, as an owner, to define what service is, but please do define it. Don't leave it up to the interpretation of each staff person. And it's also up to you as a manager to make sure that it is being consistently delivered. You know, I bet you that most of us in this room work in organizations that we have defined service to a certain extent. Some of us haven't. Some of us, it's just kind of been left out there. But what we sometimes forget to do is follow through to make sure that what we're saying is actually what we're doing. We're going to talk about that in a little bit in terms of how we can really make sure that everyone's doing the same thing. So you might be saying, okay, well, Karen, how does our staff do this clear and distinguishable kindness and warmth, and how do they create a much more inclusive and attentive environment? Well, those are the behaviors that I was referring to from the program called It's Not Our Fault, But It's Still Our Problem. And so what we have to do is, first of all, get the foundational stuff down, and then, yes, definitely give your staff the behaviors. And I think I'm going to bounce ahead here. Yes. So these behaviors about in the It's Not Our Fault, But It's Still Our Problem outlined these in detail. We outlined what was creating a culture of welcome, what the Ford was, what the PIP was. So Ford would be understanding what our members' families, their occupations, their dreams are. The PIP is personally inviting people to participate. MBWA was managing by walking around. RAOK was ready acts of kindness, not random acts of kindness, but ready acts of kindness. WWMMFF, that was warm welcomes, magic moments, fond farewells. CYC, define your contribution. M&M is members and margins. And ROAR is ownership, action, and results. Now, Deborah, if the attendees that are in this session were not in the session, It's Not Our Fault, But It's Still Our Problem, do you have that archive that they can get?
Well, I can certainly follow up with you after the webinar and make sure that, that they receive it. We can send it.
Okay, super duper. So if you were not in that session, I would connect with Deborah on either getting the notes or archive or however it's available so that you can utilize these as tools, because these are the behaviors that come from the foundation. And the reason that these are important is because, quite frankly, sometimes we hire really good people, but certain behaviors are just not intuitive to them. And so you have to train them. That's what training is for, is to create habits that people don't yet have. And so these behaviors, these 9 behaviors, are habits that we want our staff to develop. Okay, so let's go back a second in the slides. So what you have in front of you is something that I refer to as the cycle of life. Really, at your club, at any club. And this cycle of life is indicative of a club that has it dialed in and is creating a culture of welcome. So what typically happens in a club that has it down is they get a prospect. And the prospect meets with somebody in membership, and that membership person does such a good job of having that person feel comfortable and realize that we can help them with their results at the club. So that prospect becomes a member. And then what happens is that membership representative takes full ownership and responsibility of that new member, and they get them engaged in programs, whether they're fee-for programs or whether they're free programs. But they set up a plan of action for that member to immediately become engaged. So they start meeting other members, they start meeting other staff people, and furthermore, they start getting results. So we go to that 4th stage in the cycle of life. And when members are engaged and they're getting results, we do become an extraordinary part of their day. And they want to be with us more and more. They want to spend more dollars with us. They want to invite their friends to become a part of it, because now they're disciples for us, aren't they? So that creates referrals. Members who are not engaged and not getting results don't create referrals, by the way. So when we have members who create referrals, that creates a prospect again, and the cycle starts all over. So this would be the cycle of life for a club that does create a culture of welcome. And each one of those phases are critical. They're imperative to the success. Now, what typically happens in a lot of clubs is the cycle is short-lived. It doesn't go full cycle. It goes from prospect to member. And that membership representative does not take ownership of that new member, does not immediately engage them in programming, just signs them up and tells them what's available, and then it's up to the member to participate. So oftentimes that member doesn't get engaged. They really don't know anybody. And so they don't always look forward to coming to the club, and maybe they're not getting results, so it's feeling like it's a little much work and doesn't work anyway, whatever they do. So they're not coming to the club, and they're certainly not referring people, and they're probably going to quit. That's not a culture of welcome. So I really want you to think about this. You know, these things that we're talking about today, I'd like you to just assess, how well do we do this in our organization, or are there some mistakes that we need to fix, that we need to take care of and fix, so that we can have this full cycle of life at the club, and we can create that culture of welcome. This stuff is not, it's not that difficult to do. It just takes really paying attention to it. And sometimes we just get so busy in the business of our business, we don't pay attention to this. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and move on. And again, my laptop is locked up. There we go. So when you have your training program, and if you were in our session last time, this slide should look familiar, there's this phenomena that happens. And I hear this so often. Because when I'm traveling to my clients, doing a lot of work with them, they say to me, gosh, Karen, it's so good to hear this from somebody outside of the organization. And which tells me that part of what I'm telling them, their managers are also telling them, which should be the case. That there's some commonality between what they're saying and my style of training, of course. But the point is that any time you can use an outside source or statistics or information that supports your training, it becomes that much more legitimate in the eyes of your staff, which means they will say to themselves, they probably won't say it to you, but they'll say to themselves, okay, I'm working with an organization that really has it together. This is great. I like being a part of this. I'm going to continue doing this. So this slide in front of you, or the screen in front of you, refers to the Hospitality Index. And if any of you watch CNBC with Jim Cramer, then you know his program Mad Money. And he did a program, an entire program dedicated to organizations that have invested in service systems, hospitality systems. So he called this index of stocks the Hospitality Index, because this particular group of stocks, there were 17 companies that were involved in it. They had outperformed the S&P by 4 times. That's huge. That tells that it finally monetizes the fact that good service pays. We've always had a feeling in that fuzzy feeling that it's a good thing to provide good service. But that program, the Hospitality Index, that had actual hard returns that outperformed the S&P by 4 times. But if that doesn't tell you that service pays, I don't know what will. So basically what it demonstrated is that the companies that do invest in training and provide that culture of welcome where people want to come back, basically they have customers that are more loyal, they refer more, they spend more, they become much less price sensitive. That's not a bad thing. Basically what this is saying is that the whole cycle of life comes true. They have lower employee turnover, but they have higher, superior financial performance. So you can't beat that with a stick. Every one of us wants all of those things. So that's what I mentioned earlier. It's not that hard. It just takes following through. So this next screen is by Klaus Farnell, who's the founder of the American Customer Service Institute. Remember those 9 companies that I showed you earlier that had terrible ratings? He says the same thing. And you are welcome to use these slides, by the way, in your staff training, because this is what we were talking about. This shores up what you're saying to your staff. It's outside sources that say, yes, what we're doing is right. So companies with highly satisfied customers generate superior returns because customer satisfaction is critical for repeat business. My goodness, aren't we in the business of repeat business? Yes. We want our people to come and visit us 2, 3, 4 times a week. And that is a profitable business. When we can create that relationship, when people want to come back with us and they spend more money, they stay with us longer, and it's not related to price. It's related to service. So use this information. Back up your training. I'm asking you to really take a look at your training programs. Do they have the depth that you need? And if once you make any adjustments you need to, then use other sources to say, yep, we're on the right track, we're doing the right thing. Because if we don't, we lose a lot of money. And this is also a slide I would encourage you to utilize in your trainings with your staff. You have to monetize it for them. And basically what this shows us is how much money we lose every time a member leaves us. And if you're, let's make some assumptions here, if your joining fee is $75, your monthly dues is $50, and a member stays with you on average 4 years, and during that lifetime of 4 years they might refer 4 people, and they might spend non-dues revenue each year of $1,000, then if we lose one of those members, because we did not create a culture of welcome, basically have lost about $32,000. That's over the course of a 4-year lifetime of revenue. So if you have any questions about this slide, please email me, and I'm happy to walk you through this so that you can use this in your training. And bottom line, when you use this in your training, is it'll blow your staff away that a member is worth that much. And then the correlation we want to make is, what could we do with an additional $32,000? Oh, and by the way, that's one member. If we have 50 cancellations a month, that's that much more. That's a lot of money. Okay, so bottom line is it takes all of our staff being consistent, doing the same thing. That is what teamwork is. It's all of our staff working together towards a common goal and behaving in a common way, teamwork that makes the dream work. The dream is creating a culture of welcome where absolutely every member and every staff person wants to come to you every day. And they want to spend more time, and they want to spend more money, and they want to refer their friends. So I want you to take a look at all of the things that we've talked about in this program and really assess how your organization does so that you can take care of those cracks in the foundation. And then you can make those behaviors, those 9 behaviors that we're about, just flow and make those automatic. So to get buy-in from your staff, I would do some discussions with your staff. In other words, you would want to, in your next staff meeting, perhaps, or even after each staff training that you do with a new staff person, ask them, how are they going to add value to each member's visit? How do they see that we can eliminate mistakes? In their mind, what would the top 2 behaviors be that would show ownership on their part in their job? And regarding ownership, if they owned the club, what would they do? Ask those questions, and it is amazing how much buy-in and how many good ideas you're going to get from your staff in terms of how you can really create a culture of welcome. Okay, I know we're running short on time, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to go to a tool called What Do You Know? And What Do You Know, I promised you we would talk about this earlier, is when you do that weekly quiz, literally every week, every month, for every year. And the idea is that you ask your staff, once you've gone through all your training and you realize everybody has consistent information, or maybe you do this before to find out what information everybody has, you're going to ask 3 to 5 questions. And this is an online survey, so staff does not have to come into the club to do this. They simply go to your online survey service, might be SurveyMonkey, Zoomerang, whatever it is, and they just need to answer these questions by 8 o'clock every Monday night. And it is going to tell you what your staff knows and what they don't, and what you need to be more consistent with. This is an incredible tool. My clients that do this have really found a richness in just the simplicity of this and have been able to overhaul their entire training programs. Now, those slides that we just skipped over called grab bag training, that's another way to reinforce what you've trained your staff on. And so I invite any one of you to give me a call or email me, and we can spend a little bit of one-on-one time going over those. But what I want you to recognize is that we don't want to make the mistake of training once and thinking people have got it. My gosh, if you're any personal trainers in the room, if you trained your clients once, would they get it? No. So it's the same thing with staff. You need to have ongoing live trainings throughout the year that bring your entire staff together so they can share their stories. Have an online training curriculum over the course of the year so that you can track what your staff is doing. And the end result of continuing to create this culture through your training is that all of your staff becomes hardwired to just own the culture of your club, to create that consistency, to create that signature, those unmistakable behaviors that your organization will be known for. So what I'd like you to do, Deborah, I think we have another poll question in terms of what tools staff will put to work first, or the attendees will put to work first.
Yes, we do, Karen. I'll place that on the screen.
Okay.
And so attendees, if you'll just take a moment to reply, which tool will you implement first in your club? The ongoing live trainings throughout the year, or the online training curriculum during the year? give everyone a little bit of time to respond. Okay, I'm going to count down, Karen, and share the results. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Close the poll and share the results. Karen, 67% of the attendees said they would start with the ongoing live trainings, and 33% said they would start with the ongoing training curriculum, the online training curriculum.
Excellent. Excellent. Good. So for those of you who are going to do the ongoing live trainings, utilize from this session. Utilize the information from the previous session, which is, it's not our fault, but it's still our problem. For those of you who are doing online training, if you have your own online training access, terrific. If you don't, I'd be happy to talk with you about online training. But that I invite you to contact me about, because I think we have some more messages from our sponsors. Don't we, Deborah?
Well, actually, I'd like to make sure that Seth is with us. Seth is joining us via audio. Seth Robinson with Matrix Fitness, and I want to give Seth an opportunity to share a message, and really just want to thank him for making your presentation possible. It's great to work with you, Karen, and you know, just we really value the relationship and all that Matrix has done to bring this to our GGFA members. And so I'm going to pull the screen. And Seth, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here, Deb.
Okay. All right. I'm going to place your slide on the screen. And for those of you that don't know, or maybe we're not at the Gold's Gym Convention, but each year franchisees vote on the top vendors for the year, and there are different categories. And Matrix Fitness was voted for 2013 at the convention just a few weeks ago, Gold's Gym Equipment Vendor of the Year, and that's just an amazing achievement, Seth. So I've got the screen, showing, and I'd like to invite you to share a message.
Yes, thank you, Deb, for that, and thank you, Karen, for your time. But yeah, winning the Equipment Vendor Award is definitely been exciting for us. We were actually won in 2012 and 2013, so back-to-back is truly a privilege. And I think we've won it 2, 3 out of the last 5 years. So it definitely shows that this helps validate some things that we're doing right now with the industry and the franchisees. So very excited and appreciate everyone for that. A couple of quick notes too. Things are definitely exciting for Matrix, and this time of year it seems like between the convention and the upcoming owners conference, things really take off for us. Right now, we have been getting a lot of inquiries on how customers can swap out their old cardio for new to start getting ready for the heavy traffic of the new year. So to help with that, Matrix has set up a pretty integrated network with the used equipment vendors that are out there in the market, and we put together a very aggressive trade-in program right now that will be running through the end of the year. So for any questions on that, please contact myself or any local territory manager in your area on how that program works and the details for that. But thank you guys for your time again, and hope to see you at the upcoming owners conference. Thanks, Deb.
Absolutely. Thank you, Seth. Yes, and if for franchisees that are here with us today, as I had said earlier, please register for the owners conference, and you will see all of our sponsors that have shared messages today there at the event. And they all look forward to seeing you as well. Karen, at this time, I have the screen still, and I've placed your contact information there, which is the last slide of your presentation. So if you're fine with me holding that, I'd like to open the floor for questions. If you do end up wanting to elaborate and refer back to a previous slide in your presentation, then I'll watch for that, and I'll hand the screen back to you. So does that sound okay?
Sure.
Okay, great. All right, so for everyone with us, we've gone a little bit over the hour, but the GGFA and Karen are able to remain live. If you have a telephone connection and would like to just raise your hand by clicking on the hand symbol, we can unmute your line for some open dialogue with Karen. She'll take questions, and she'd probably love to hear any type of testimonials based on her message today as well. or you can type your question or comment into the question box on your dashboard, and I will read those to Karen. So, Karen, I don't see any questions in the dialog box yet, but I'll watch for those. And while we're giving folks an opportunity, to do one or the other, is there anything you'd like to elaborate on? I will want to add some information about what everyone will receive after the webinar. But is there anything that you'd like to elaborate on at this point?
I encourage anybody who has any questions. I know we covered a lot of information. If you have any questions, please do feel free to shoot off an email, and I'll be happy to address any of your questions or issues, or if you'd like to go into more depth personally. Okay, great. And Karen, for some of the folks that are here with us, I can see their names, and some of them are actually staff members for franchisees. How would you recommend that they share your message if they have seen some great things here and are inspired? What would you suggest their action step be, to make this information available to the owner of the club? If you're a staff member attending today, what I would encourage you to do is have a conversation with your owner or your manager. And the thing that we always want to be careful about is if you feel like you've got some great ideas, I am delighted. What I don't want you to do is I don't want us to go back to our owners or managers. Our programs are all wrong, because then we'll create a sense of defense and we will not have any change take place. What we might want to do is say, hey, we got something today from a webinar that we could add to our training already, our already good training. It would really enhance what we do. I'd love to chat with you about that. So sometimes, and I say this because when I had my clubs, and as I listen to some of my client staff, when they come back from conferences or webinars, they have such a zeal and such an enthusiasm and excitement about what they've learned that they sometimes can discount some of the already good programs that the organization has going on. So I would just say be aware of that. Okay, great. Well, and Karen, I'd like to let everyone know that, for everyone that registered for the webinar, there's always a handful of folks that, because of their schedule, weren't actually able to be here. But if you registered, you're going to receive a message from the GGFA. We're going to attach Karen's entire presentation here. She's been so gracious to allow everyone to have this, and then all of the messages from our sponsors as well. But Karen's contact information is there, and she encourages one-on-one follow-up with her. And it's just a great support of our educational program. And I mentioned earlier that we do record these webinars. So in the library, you're going to find the owner of the gym will have login access to the GGFA website. So the library is on the login side, and they can go in and access this recording, which takes, we say that we allow 2 weeks. It really doesn't take that long, but there is a process that it goes through to be converted into a readable and viewable format. We send an announcement out to let everyone know that it's been newly added to the library. But literally, you can go in and look for Karen's previous presentations that she was talking about, and a number of others. So great way to work with your staff if you are an owner or for a staff member, because your owner is a member of the GGFA. All of that is available to you as well. So, okay. Karen, I am watching. I don't see a comment or a raised hand. I think that everyone has probably been so inspired with, with the level of your presentation. It was fabulous. Thank you.
And so sometimes there's not as many questions, but people may follow up with you afterwards, after they have a little bit of time to, digest everything and start, going back to their organization. So, again, thank you for presenting with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Absolutely.
And I think we'll call it a day.
Okay. Karen, I do see a message from Kyle Scovali, and he's saying, first of all, thanks for all the great webinars and the training materials that you provide, Karen. Do you still have, and he's asking me if we still have access to the webinar. That's, I'll help anyone that needs help with their login access. but I think that's just a word of thanks to you, Karen, and to the GGFA for
Thank you,
providing
Kyle.
these things. And other comments coming in are, just kudos and thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Okay. So again, thanks for being here, and thank you to everyone for, getting involved in your GGFA membership and engaging with each other, because that's where we draw strength is from each other in organizations. So we're here to support all of you guys. We hope to see a great showing at the Owners Conference. And in the meantime, please feel free to get in touch with us. Karen, have a great rest of the week. And Seth, thank you as well for Matrix. And I want to also thank our additional sponsors, Aspen Marketing, Twin Oaks Software, and ReadyCare Industries, all members of the Supplier Partnership Network. All right? Everyone have a great rest of the day and rest of the week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.